Good morning. This is Richard A. McMenamin II. This disclosure is for the people of the state of New Hampshire. It's intended to bring awareness to a facility here and a case called the Sununu Center, which is the youth detention center in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's been national news, but most people don't even know what it is. And this is the reason why people are so abused in the New Hampshire family court system. And this is the reason why the New Hampshire DCYF is responsible for a lot of murders and violent abuse upon children. So the Sununu Center is the old youth detention center down in Manchester, New Hampshire. It housed a little over 100 children at any particular time. It's been there for decades. The atrocities that went on at this center upon children are some that the United States has never seen before. It's amazing that they've kept it a secret, but the state is really, really good at keeping secrets. There's one AP reporter out there that knows a lot about it, and she's holding back a lot too. But what the people of New Hampshire need to know is how severe this case is. This is pure evil, and it's in relation to all your family court matters today. So the people that are involved in this abuse at that center are still involved in it today in the family courts, and that's the judges at a hierarchy, and then you have the guardian ad litems, you have attorneys, you have police officers, local prosecutors. All of these people have been identified in my case, but they have the protection very high up, and we'll get to that. The abuses consisted of primarily the tortures and the rapes of children. It's very hard to talk about, and I've written something on it. I'll put a link to that somehow on here. I probably have to write it down again. The sexual aspect of it was horrific, just plain evil. Thousands of rapes of children. These are being prosecuted through civil court right now by an attorney, mostly one attorney down in Bedford that is very strong. And these children came out of that facility and they were able to disclose what happened to them finally as adults. But it's not something that just happened in the olden days. This is all the way up until 2018, and from my investigations, it's still going on today. The sexual assaults at this center are unbelievable. The sick, sadistic nature of these children upon these children is something that like I said, this country has never seen before. And they're trying to suppress, every judge in the state is trying to suppress testimony on this case because it's known that if some of these people testify, they will be able to identify people from the family courts of New Hampshire who were going there and abusing the children. We're talking about judges here. It just plainly put, the judges are involved in these rapes of children. And the reason that they can get away with it is because it goes all the way up into the federal level. So you have federal judges at a federal courthouse here in New Hampshire who have been involved in this and who are involved in the cover-up of all this abuse. It's so strong because there's so many people involved in it that the lawmakers, leaders of the state, they feel they can't do anything about it. But you're being affected. Anybody who has children whose welfare crosses the threshold of a family court or the DCYF, they're the same thing. My case has identified individuals from both working together, behind the scenes, if you will. Any child that crosses those thresholds becomes a target for these judges. Simply put, it's judges raping children. There's no other way to put it. This dynamic was discovered in Connecticut in 2015 by a global war investigative journalist, and he couldn't believe what was happening. And you know what? They didn't have a Sununu center. We have a Sununu center. Now, this is why you are experiencing what's called judicial abuse with your cases, with these judges. The object of these orders from these family courts is to destabilize the child's environment. Now, they use the term as camouflage as the best interest of a child, and my case forced the state legislature last year to pass a law. Law means nothing to these people. Pass a law that says these judges have to order in the best interest of a child. That term is very, very dangerous because they're using it as cover. Whenever, it's almost like code for these guys. Best interest of a child lets everybody else assume that they're determining for the best interest. They're not. As long as they have that as cover, they can continue doing what they're doing. And what they're doing is writing these orders to destabilize the child's environment, taking them out of their homes. A lot of the cases you may be the protector, trying to protect your children, and the judge keeps ordering the children back to the abuser. Some of the cases, they're not even in the DCYF system yet, but the judge will attempt to destabilize that dynamic with the child with this 50-50 thing. They call it 50-50. Oh, that's fair. No, that's not what it is. It's the more that they can make that child's environment erratic, the more opportunity there is for a breakdown of protection of that child. One of the parents is going to fail. They spend a lot of money. I know you guys have spent a lot of money. Anybody that's trying to protect a child in the state of New Hampshire and going up against this, and this is pure evil, you spent a lot of money. You've probably borrowed money. You've mortgaged your houses. You've mortgaged property. You've got money from the grandparents. I know you have. I know what you're going through. And this is all an equation for them. There's lawyers making a lot of money off of this. And then eventually one of the parents gives up. And the possibility of that child, who's now fractured, a broken child, the possibility of that child ending up in state care is high. And once that child's in state care, these guys have access to that child. That's how it works. There was a lot written on it about this case in Connecticut, and it's carbon copy to New Hampshire. Now, my investigation, I have actually found individuals that were involved in that dynamic in Connecticut. In the Attorney General's office of the state of Connecticut, that were directly involved in these rapes, and I believe they still are connected. And now they're in our Attorney General's office here. This is brutal stuff. It all goes back to the dynamic of the Sununu Center. These guys have thrown it in my face. They say they can do this. I've mentioned this before, because they were beaten and molested in a Catholic school, and I truly believe that they are programmed, if you will, to think that it's good for a child to be abused. They think it's good for a child to be raped. This is what we're talking about here. We're talking about judges raping children It's cut and dried. And they know that if somebody like me comes along and starts saying this, that nobody will believe it. But it's been uncovered now. You have the Sununu Center. And they've taken all of this cover from every agency in the state. My case here, there's been 7 people murdered, attempts on our lives, federal witness murdered, her 2 children to send a message. It just goes on and on. And where the top of it is, I was always determined to find the top of this, because they say there's a hierarchy. The one in Connecticut, there was a hierarchy. And in this state, the hierarchy is the federal courthouse. So in my case, you'll see in this writing, I've identified a very powerful federal judge who's associated with the Supreme Court of the United States, who just happened to end up with my case after another judge reviewed it, and he took care of it. The problem is, investigating this judge, this federal judge, you realize that he was Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire during the 1980s, when a lot of this abuse was going on. And there was absolutely no way that he didn't know about it. In fact, it's not a matter of that he didn't know about it, because these cases were in the court and the Attorney General is part of these cases. So when he was Attorney General, he was actually part of these cases where these children were being raped at this center, and judges all the way up into our Supreme Court, and yes, the Supreme Court is infested with them. All the way up into our Supreme Court, these judges were not trying to hide it, and they were ordering the children go there to be raped, saying that these children deserved it. Now, as I've said, the dynamic is 95% of the children that are in that facility are there because they were targeted by the DCYF and by the courts. So a judge may order, as in your cases, a judge may order the child to stay with an abuser. And that child may fight back someday. A child that's being molested and violently attacked and abused eventually fights back. So most of those children at the Sununu Center are there because of that dynamic where the child fought back. And as soon as the child fights back, they arrest the child. And this is a child that's been reported for years of being abused, and they keep that child in that abusive environment. That's how they do it. There's no law that's going to fix this. Absolutely, they have no recognition of any child abuse laws in this state. They will not apply them. There was another group that felt that there needed to be new laws passed. There's no way to stop them conventionally with laws. It needs to be in leadership. The people need to be removed, and they need to be held accountable. It needs to be stopped. There's a lot of cases, family court cases, that need to be reviewed, and they need to be gone over again. There needs to be a new panel, if you will, to come into this state and take each one of these cases individually and create an environment for the child that's stable, because it's so bad now. Create a stable environment for these children. I will add that link to that writing, so you realize what's going on with these federal judges. But this, in a nutshell, is what's going on. This is why you're suffering. Be good out there. God bless all of you. Thank you.